Tradition isn't about doing things the old way. It's about carrying forward the essence and letting the form evolve. Ahoy and welcome back to another episode of The Captain's Log. Today's a very special episode because today I'm recording this from Castello San Sebastiano outside of Torino in Italy, northern Italy. And I've just been here for the last week on a very special event called The Happening, which is an event we have once a year with a number of practitioners in the MG Taylor space. And I thought it would be fitting to not only do an episode in this epic room full of ships. There's actually ships going all the way around the room in here at the moment. It's quite cool. But I wanted to just sit down and reflect a little bit about the week that we've had and some of the key topics and themes and conversations that we've been having as a collective. The Happening is, as I mentioned, is this event where MG Taylor practitioners from around the world come together. And we spend 3 or so days talking about our practice and talking about the context of the world in which we are living and how we can also reimagine our future. There were a few key themes that came out of the last week. One of them was around lineage and legacy. So we are stewards of a practice, the MG Taylor practice, and there is a real importance to not only pass on tools of our practice, but also to pass on the soul and the ethos, the philosophy and the principles of this practice. And we're not held into a rigid system in terms of how we share that methodology. In fact, it's our duty to the practice as members of this network and this community to actually evolve it while keeping the intent of that practice alive. There was another theme around mastery. In a world that prioritizes speed, there's a really long road to expertise with something like this. It's in order to get real mastery, you need to be willing to slow down, spend time with teachers, deepen in a practice. And in a world that is running at a rapid pace, it's really important to put a boundary around that and actually find the space and the time to do that. You will never reach mastery without a master in a practice like this, for example, because it takes many, many lifetimes to reach that level of mastery. And the master will actually pass that down from generation to generation of practitioner. To get all of the skill sets in order to build this boat would have taken many, many lifetimes to learn each of these, but someone carries forward that knowledge and they're able to kind of share that and pass down those tools. But for somebody to learn all of this without any input or knowledge transfer, it would take more than one lifetime to even gather all the skills to build something like that. Rob Evans calls it a baton. We put the baton in. When you're climbing a wall, you put the baton in. And when you fall, the baton will catch you. And people like Rob Evans in our network, obviously is a master of this craft, are creating those batons for us so that as practitioners, we won't fall back in our knowledge base and our ability to carry this practice forward. And it's really important to engage and learn and grow through mentorship and learning through doing. And this was a really great experience of that. There was lots of different practitioners at different levels of experience. And we were able to kind of share our knowledge and our learnings the last few days. It was amazing. The next piece was around community of practice. So it's around holding space for integrational learning, rediscovering joy and purpose through a shared craft, and the responsibility that we have to renew and regenerate the work. We don't have to hold on to things and keep them the same just because they were. It's up to us to adapt and evolve the work based on the changing context in which we live. There's also a piece around knowledge storage and practice infrastructure. So how do we archive and pass on the learnings beyond our Google Drive dumps? There were some proposals around centralizing resources and tools, and also the vast wisdom within our network, so our knowledge base, and the role of documentation in memory and the health of our systems in documenting and bringing all of that knowledge base together. There was also another really interesting piece in this work around technology and emerging roles. I've been a knowledge worker for many years now, and I would say that I've noticed that, especially with the rise of AI and technology, there are new roles emerging based on these technologies and how we adapt and how we work. Traditionally, in a design shop setting or a space, you would have a facilitator, a process facilitator, solution designer. You would have a graphics person, an environment person. You would have a production person. You would have a rad room person. I'm forgetting other roles now. But you have all these kind of roles. But there seems to be a new one emerging, which I thought was very interesting. And Tom Kenneher, from The Difference in the US, he's calling this role the cognitor. And what that is somebody who's actually using AI tools and to actually rapidly build and prototype and use those tools to actually collect and synthesize information in real time in the lead up to the event and while the event's happening, which I thought was fascinating because this is something that I've been kind of playing around with and doing without knowing that was where that potentially was heading to within a design shop setting. But that just goes to show that we can be resistant to change because we think we need to hold on to these old ways of doing things because of traditions, because of legacy ideas, or we feel like we need to honor our teachers in the certain way that they were doing things. But in reality, if we can continue to do that, we will be outdated in the way that we work, and we won't be able to keep up with the rate of change and where the world's moving. So what I found was that there was a kind of like a two parts to that. And I did mention earlier, but the one part is around understanding the philosophy and the origins of the work, the ethics or the ethos around it, and the philosophy and the principles, but then taking that frame, that base, and actually going, okay, well, what's the context that we live in now, and how can we apply the essence of this and adapt it to the new conditions in which we are now living? Because the principles of the work remain the same. It's around accelerating solutions, around allowing new ideas to emerge. It's around not us coming up with solutions and fixing things for other people, but it's around us creating an environment for others to come together and remember what they already know. So if we can use new tools and technologies in order for us to accelerate that process and add to that process, then why not? I think it's a really valuable thing to do. If we can get through 5 or 6 prototypes as opposed to 1 or 2, I think it's a valuable thing to bring to the session. So lots of really good stuff came out of this last week. I did notice that within our network, there was a real resistance to technology from a lot of people. Some people are really embracing it, but generally we do things by hand, we cartoon by hand, we draw things, we make things. There's a lot of tactileness and handmade within the environments, and that's definitely a lot of the beauty of the environment, where it's creating space for people to come together without all of these distractions. So that's very much a part of it, is the environment. And I don't think that we need to move away from that, but I think that because our environments are generally like that, there tended to be a bit of a resistance towards the adaptation of some of these technologies such as AI. But I did see a real shift in the last couple of days here with people in the network. I think there were some epiphanies had around technologies and how we can start to adapt and play with these tools in order to enhance our work and also to document and create a knowledge base for our network. I also got to run a couple of sessions of my Second Brain workshop here. And what I found very fascinating was I didn't realize I was in a very narrow corridor in Bali, where a lot of the people that I'm around are very advanced with AI and building AI tools and systems. And I honestly thought that the conversations that we were having in Bali were very normal, and this is what was happening in a lot of spaces, especially spaces like this where I'm around a lot of designers working in rapid change environments. But it seems like that's not the case. So that was a big learning for me, is that I'm actually in a very fortunate situation where I'm at the very leading edge of people who are adapting and evolving and using this technology to implement in their business and use with their clients and to build tools and systems. So I would really like to share that, whatever I'm learning from my amazing situation over there with my network, because I think it's important that we all learn that stuff together. But in any case, on reflection, there's just a few kind of questions here that I'd love to share. So the first thing is around legacy and lineage. So it's, what practice, wisdom, or way of working are you the custodian of? What's been passed on to you, and what are you choosing to carry forward? What does mastery look like in your field? And are you making space to pursue it? Who are your teachers and who are you teaching? And what would it look like to treat your craft as a long game? How might technology enhance, not replace, your unique human contribution? What roles could AI automation play in accelerating your work without compromising your values? And where are you still working in isolation when the tools exist to collaborate more deeply? So those are some things to think about this week. And in the meantime, I will be traveling around Italy and Europe. So I will be delivering another captain's log next week from another location yet to be determined. But that is all for this week's episode of the Captain's Log. And as always, guys, have a great week. Have a reflection on some of the questions that I just posed here. And until next week, hold fast.